Tools for writing, Tool 45. Tool 45 tells us there are only three kinds of clauses: dependent clauses, DC, independent clauses, IC, and relative clauses, RC. Chapter 9 is about relative clauses. In this chapter, Chapter 7, we will deal only with dependent clauses and independent clauses. Okay. Now, first part of that, 45A, talks about a dependent clause, also called a subordinate clause. It always starts with a dependent word. Write that down and let's look at a few examples. Now, what is a dependent word? That's the first question. A dependent word is, again, in the list in your book on pages 398 to 399. There's a long list of dependent words. So to find a dependent clause, we are looking for a subject and a verb, and then before that subject and a verb, there should be one of the words from that list. Okay. So if we consult that list, we can see words around here that are on the list, such as after. Okay. So after could be a dependent word, but it's only going to be a dependent word if there's a subject and a verb after it. So after the game, no, we said before that's a phrase. That's going to be a prepositional phrase because after is a preposition and the game is the object of the preposition. And so that one is not a dependent clause. So after, the word after can be either a preposition or a dependent word. So here it's a preposition. Here, however, okay, after we finished our work, we've got a subject and a verb, and the word after comes in front of it. And like we said, after is on our list of dependent words, so we're going to label it a DW, because after is a dependent word, and then we is a subject, finished as a verb. And so we put that together, DW plus S plus V. What does that equal? That equals a dependent clause. We're going to label this dependent clause, or DC. Okay. So there's our dependent clause, or DC. Something like after we finished our work. My daughter is brilliant at math. Okay, this is a clause. There's nothing at the beginning of it. Okay, so we're going to call that an independent clause, which you'll see in a minute. But here's another dependent word. Oops. Here's another dependent word, even though. Okay, so we're going to label that in DW, independent, DW, dependent word. And then where's the subject after that? She. And she does what? She struggles. And let's not forget to label with grammar is going to be a prepositional phrase. So DW plus S plus V, that's what's going to be called a DC, dependent clause. Let's go back to our tool. 45B, in an independent clause, or IC, there is no DW in front of the subject and verb. The subject and verb are an independent subject-verb pair. Okay, so the pair in an independent subject-verb or an independent clause. Now, if we think of this as dependent is someone who can't stand on their own, right? A child is dependent on their parents, right? In the same way, a dependent clause can't stand on its own. It needs something else to prop it up. An independent clause could stand on its own. It means it could be a complete sentence. So if we look at our examples again, this subject and verb, no DW at the beginning, so it's an independent clause. Label that an IC, independent clause. Okay, meaning this could be a sentence on its own, and it's perfectly fine. Okay, we went to the party. Well, if we imagine that the sentence stopped there, we put a period there. Does that make sense? Yeah, we went to the party is an independent clause because that could be a sentence on its own. Or in other words, it's a subject and verb, no dependent word at the start of it. If we look again at the second part of the sentence, after we finished our work, okay, would that be a sentence by itself? No, it would leave you saying, what? What's going on? After we finished our work, what happened? That's why it's a dependent clause. So DW, S, and V means that it couldn't stand on its own. Okay? My daughter is brilliant at math. No dependent word, and again, if we put a period there, perfectly fine. So we know that this is an IC, or independent clause. And again, even though she struggles with grammar, that dependent word means it's a dependent clause, means it could not stand on its own as a complete sentence. So, dependent clause, not a complete sentence. Independent clause could be a complete sentence.